Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, today we will discuss bacterial zoonotic disease known as plaque. Plaque is primarily a zoonotic disease caused by Yersinia pestis involving rodents and fleas. It exists in natural foci and it is transmitted by infected flea bites to humans living or intruding into the same ecological environment. Plaque. It occurs in many forms, that is, exotically, epizootically, sporadically, and also in epidemics. Despite enormous knowledge is there regarding plaque, this disease continues to pose a threat in many areas of the world. Plaque is often seen as a problem of the past or often seen as an ancient disease. However, continued outbreaks throughout the world they attest to its presence. Plague continues to be a threat because vast areas exist where wild rodents they are infected, particularly in the endemic countries in Africa, Asia, and the Americas. It is predominantly a rural disease, and plague is a major concern in countries where it remains endemic. From 2004 to 2009, a total of 12,503 cases of human plague occurred, which included 843 deaths, and these cases were reported by 16 countries in Africa, Asia, and the Americas. The global case fatality rate of this disease varies from one region to another region. There is a need to continue to make concerted efforts to strengthen the surveillance and improve control measures in order to manage the human plague in endemic countries. Dear students, now we will discuss the epidemiological determinants. First of all, we will discuss agent factors. Yersinia pestis is a gram-negative, non-motile Coccobacillus. This bacilli occurs in great abundance in buboes, blood, spleen, liver, and other viscera of the infected persons. It is also found in the sputum of the cases of pneumonic plague. The virulence of organism is related to its ability to produce exotoxin, endotoxin, fraction 1, and many other antigens and toxins. It can survive and multiply in the soil of rodent burrows. Reservoir of infection. Wild rodents, which include gerbils, field mice, etc., they are the natural reservoir of plague. Disease is maintained and spread by rodents which have become immune to plague. The susceptible rodents they die of the disease. Source of infection. Infected rodents and fleas and case of pneumonic plague they are the source of infection. Cause factors. All ages and both sexes they are susceptible. There are numerous human activities which offer numerous opportunities to flee to human contact. Activities like hunting, grazing, cultivation, harvesting, and construction, or while engaging in outdoor recreation activities, they offer numerous opportunities to flee to man contact. War may also account for the outbreaks, as had happened in Vietnam. Movement of people. Plague is associated with movement of people and cargo by sea or by land. Rats and fleas they are transported in this way. In these days of jet travel, it is possible for a person to acquire the disease and become ill thousands of miles away where the plague would be least suspected. Immunity. Man has no natural immunity. Now we will discuss the environmental factors. First of all, season. Outbreaks of plague, they are usually seasonal in nature. Plague season starts from September until May. The disease tends to die out with the onset of hot weather. A mean temperature of 20 to 25 centigrade and a relative humidity of 60% and above, they are considered to be favorable for the spread of plague. This disease is more common in rural areas compared to urban areas. Frequent dwelling houses and where the housing conditions they are poor, there may be an abundance of rats and rats fleas all year round, and contact with man occurs readily. Vectors of plague. The commonest and the most efficient vector of plague is the rat flea, Xanthopsala choppus. Other rat fleas may also transmit the infection, which include Xanthopsala astia, Xanthopsala brasiliensis, and Pulex irritans, that is human flea. Both sexes of the flea bite and both sexes they can transmit the disease. Dear students, this slide is showing you the vector of plague, that is Pulex irritans, also known as human flea. Blocked flea. A flea may ingest up to 0.5 cubic millimeter of blood, which may contain as many as 5,000 plaque bacilli. The bacilli multiply enormously in the gut of the rat flea and may block the proventriculus so that no food can pass through. Such a flea is called a blocked flea. A blocked flea makes frantic efforts to bite and suck blood over and over again, and in doing so, it inoculates the plaque bacilli into the bite wound each time it bites. A blocked flea therefore becomes an efficient transmitter of the plaque. A blocked flea eventually faces starvation and dies because it is unable to obtain a blood meal. While a partially blocked flea can live longer compared to a blocked flea. So that's why a partially blocked flea is more dangerous than a completely blocked flea because it can live longer. Infected fleas may live up to a year, and certain species they can survive in the borough microclimate for as long as 4 years. Mode of transmission of human plaque. Human plaque is most frequently contracted from the bite of an infected flea or occasionally by direct contact with the tissues of the infected animal or by droplet infection from cases of pneumonic plaque. The dissemination of plaque by plaque patients by the bite of the human flea, that is Pulex irritans, is a rare and exceptional occurrence. This picture is showing you the different features of pneumonic plaque and the bubonic plaque. In pneumonic plaque, there is pneumonia and usually there is 100% mortality. While in bubonic plaque, it is caused by the bite of an infected rat flea. It spreads to lymphatics and it causes internal organ hemorrhage, pneumonia, and it is highly contagious. There are three different forms of plaque which are known as bubonic plaque, septicemic plaque, and pneumonic plaque, and the incubation period of these varies. The incubation period of bubonic plaque varies from 2 to 7 days. Septicemic plaque incubation period varies from 2 to 7 days. And in case of pneumonic plaque, the incubation period is shorter and it varies in the range of 1 to 3 days. Bubonic plaque is the most common form. The infected rat fleas, they usually bite on the lower extremities and inoculate the bacilli. The bacilli, they are intercepted by the regional lymph nodes where they proliferate. Patient develops sudden fever, chills, headache, prostration, and painful lymphadenitis. And large tender lymph nodes, they develop in the groin and less commonly in the axilla or the neck, depending upon the site of the bite by the flea. When suppuration takes place, it is considered a favorable sign. Bubonic plaque cannot spread from person to person as the bacilli, they are locked up in the buboes. Pneumonic plaque, it is rare. It generally follows as a complication of bubonic septicemic plaque. Pneumonic plaque is highly infectious and it spreads from person to person by droplet infection. The plaque bacilli, they are present in the sputum. Septicemic plaque, it is rare except for the accidental laboratory infections. Bubonic plaque may develop into septicemic plaque in the face of an overwhelming infection. This slide is giving you a brief overview of the different types of plaque, that is bubonic, septicemic, and pneumonic plaque, which we just discussed in the last slide. Laboratory investigations. The absolute confirmation of plaque infection in human beings, rodents, or fleas requires the isolation and identification of the plaque bacilli. The important laboratory methods of diagnosis, they include the staining, culture, serology, and there are few other methods available too. Staining. Bubofluid sputum smears, they should be fixed with alcohol and then stained with Giemsa stain to demonstrate the bipolar bacilli in the specimen. Blood. Blood culture should be collected from all patients. Under ideal circumstances, culture media should be inoculated on the spot with the blood, bubofluid, or sputum to ensure speedy isolation of the plaque bacilli. Acute and convalescent specimen of blood sera should be collected for antibody studies. There are few other methods available. The important method is immunofluorescent microscopic test. Dear students, now we will discuss the prevention and control of plaque. First of all, we will discuss the control of cases. Control of cases includes the measures of early diagnosis, notification, isolation, treatment, and disinfection. Early diagnosis. During the epidemic situations, diagnosis of plaque can be readily made based on the clinical grounds. For example, acute fever and painful lymph nodes enlargement developing into buboes in the inguinal and the other regions of the body. In the other situations, rat falls, that is dead rats, they provide a useful warning of a possible outbreak. Notification. Health authorities must be notified. Case notification is required by the international health regulations. Isolation. Isolation is recommended whenever possible. All the patients with pneumonic plaque, including the suspected cases, they should be isolated. The drug of choice in case of plaque is streptomycin, administered intramuscularly in two divided doses for 7 to 10 days. Tetracycline orally is an alternative choice and is sometimes given in combination with streptomycin. Disinfection of sputum, discharges, and articles swallowed by the patient should be carried out. Dead bodies should be handled with aseptic precautions. The next measure is control of fleas. Destruction of the rat fleas by proper application of an effective insecticide breaks the chain of transmission. Flea control measures must precede or coincide with the anti-rodent measures. In general, DDT and BHC, they should be used as dusts containing 10% and 3% of the active ingredient respectively. In areas where resistance to one or both of these insecticides occurs, dust of carbaryl 2% or malathion 5% should prove effective. Before spraying is to be done, the inhabitants of the premises should be asked to remove all the foodstuff and eating and cooking vessels from their houses. Spraying is done inside the houses, covering the entire floor area, bottoms of all walls up to 3 feet above the floor level, back of the doors, crevices of the walls, rat runs, clothing, bedding, and pets. Rat burrows should be insufflated with the insecticidal dust with the help of a dust blower. Within 48 hours of application, the flea index should drop down to 0. Control of rodents. Continuous mass destruction of rodents is an important plague preventive measure. The long-term policy for the control of rodents should be based on improvement of general sanitation, improvement of housing, and improvement of quality of life. Vaccination. World Health Organization recommends that under all circumstances, vaccination should only be used for the prevention, not for the control of human plague. To be effective, vaccination should be carried out at least a week before an anticipated outbreak, and the vaccine should be given in 2 doses. This table is showing you the dosage of plague vaccine. The vaccine is given subcutaneously in 2 doses at an interval of 7 to 14 days. In case of adult males, the first dose is 1 ml, second dose is 1.5 ml, and a booster dose 6 monthly is 1 ml. In case of females, the first primary dose is 0.75 ml, the second dose is 1 ml, and the booster dose of 6 monthly is 0.75 ml. In case of children, the dose varies from 0.2, 0.3, and 0.4 ml depending upon the age group. And the second dose is basically the double dose of the first dose. And the 6 monthly booster dose is the same as the first dose. Infants under the age of 6 months, they should not be immunized. Chemoprophylaxis. Chemoprophylaxis should be offered to all the plague contacts, medical, nursing, and public health personnel who are exposed to the risk of infection. The drug of choice is tetracycline. For adults, the dose is 500 mg, 6 hourly for 5 days. A cheaper alternative is available, that is sulfonamide. 2 to 3 grams daily for 5 to 7 days is recommended. Surveillance. Plaque has a potential for spread into susceptible areas. Therefore, in areas where natural plaque foci exists or where there is a history of past infection, surveillance is essential. Surveillance should cover all aspects of rodent and human plaque. It should include microbiology, serology, entomology, mammalogy, epidemiology, and ecology. On the basis of information provided by surveillance, effective control measures they must be established. Health education. Health education should aim at providing the public with the facts about the plague and at enlisting their cooperation. Emphasis must be placed on the need for the prompt reporting of dead rats and suspected human cases so that preventive measures they can be taken. Medical practitioners should keep plaque in mind in differential diagnosis of any cases of fever with lymphadenopathy or when multiple cases of pneumonia occur. Epidemiological investigations. The determination of the source of infection and the distribution, prevalence, and potential spread of plaque in human population is the main objective of epidemiological surveillance. While the collection of demographic data and information on such subjects as population movements and local occupations, customs, and habits is important, special attention must be given to the factors which are bringing man into contact with the vertebrate reservoir and vectors of Yersinia pestis. Reporting of cases and outbreaks of plague. WHO should be informed promptly of the occurrence of any epidemic or isolated cases of plague. The report should include details about the administrative area and the exact locality involved. The preliminary notification should be followed up as soon as possible by a more detailed report. This concludes our today's lecture. Thank you very much.